The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development. With a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co. Welcome, everyone. Very exciting moment at the Best You EXPO. We have, one of the speakers that without a doubt you're going to love and enjoy throughout the whole week. Is just an amazing individual, an amazing man that obviously has a vast expertise, who is, extremely knowledgeable, successful, and has the know-how when it comes down to entrepreneurship. So who I have here with me today, who I have with me right now is John Shin. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm doing great, Bernardo. How are you?
I'm very good, very good. So John is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, executive producer, author, motivational speaker, and critically acclaimed business coach that captivates his audiences with a sense of humor and contagious energy that keeps people on the edge of their seats after 12 hours of intensive mentorship. John, thanks to have you here.
Yes, absolutely fired up.
Well, look, John, we had a brief chat the other day, and thank you for showing up and sharing some ideas. I've told you, I want to emphasize this again. I'm a massive fan of your work, of what you've done, what you managed to achieve with the Think and Grow Rich, obviously the Think and Grow Rich for Asians, and also, producing the Think and Grow Rich, the legacy. But apart from that, as an individual, with a beautiful family and a congruent, honest guy that walks his talk, who I have shared previously when you weren't on the talk prior, that you're responsible for taking half the toilet paper of Calabasas. I've already shared that with so they all know. And I don't think you can actually hide it, John.
No, we cannot.
Well, John, listen, thank you so much. The floor is yours. And thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Bernardo. Hey, I just wanted to, before I get started, I want to thank Bernardo Moya in putting together the Best You EXPO, because, in a time like now, what better time than somebody to really take the lead and be the tip of the spear to organize an event like this, where everyone around the world can participate in some way and really learn something. In fact, one of the things I've been telling people is that, during this quarantine or stay in home order, wherever you guys are listening from, because this is going to get broadcasted to all over the world. And, wherever you're at, this is a pandemic that is affecting the planet, not just the United States, not just in Asia or Europe or, the Middle East. It's a global pandemic. And, one of the things I said to people is, during a crisis like this, if you don't come out of this quarantine with some new knowledge, a new skill, a new side hustle, or even a new business, then folks, you didn't lack time. What you lacked is you lacked discipline. And so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir because you're all here. I really want to say this to the people who are not here right now that should be here listening to this. Because the speakers that Bernardo and his team have gone after to bring them to this program so that they can go and share their great knowledge and expertise and, what's on their mind, some tools that can help all of you grow. And so I'm delighted that you're all part of this today. I'm can't imagine. I am super honored, really, to be here with all of you today. I honestly, I wish I could be in front of you live, high five you, give you all, knuckles and hugs and whatever. And we're here and let's make the best of it. And I want you to take some paper and a pen, and I want you to become a wonderful student, have an open mind over the next 55 minutes here that I have with you, or 50 minutes now. And I hope that you have some good takeaways. Okay. First and foremost, what I want to do is talk to you about dreams, because a lot of people, today will say, does the American dream still exist? Next slide. And so, as I'm talking to you about dreams, okay, I don't know if there's a way you guys can see this or not, but there might be a little delay, a lag, you guys, between me and my PowerPoint, because we're doing this all remotely. But Matt, next slide. Is there a slide that, do I see what they're seeing or can I see what they're seeing? I'm not sure. How does this? Let's see. There we go. All right. So now you guys see what I see. So let's go to the next slide. So right now, there we go. So one of the things I want to challenge you to do during a time of crisis or a pandemic is to dream again. Despite the fact that there's all this going on, you're going to say, well, how can you possibly dream? Well, you got to dream bigger now than you ever have. In fact, Dr. Martin Luther King said that most people die at the age of 25, and we just don't bury them until they're 80. It's because most people have given up. They've surrendered. They've allowed other people to hijack their dreams. And now they said, there's no way. You know, they have a very fixed mindset where they say, these are the cards that were dealt to me. And the dreams are, is unrealistic. And I don't even want to dream, because if I dream about something, I don't want it to not come to fruition. And suddenly I become disappointed. I feel like I'm incompetent or whatever it is. But let's talk about what the definition of a dream is. Next slide. And as we're looking at this, just if you can't write this fast, just go ahead and take a picture of it with your camera, right? But a dream, okay, is an inspiring picture of the future that energizes your mind, that energizes your will, your emotions, and it empowers you to do everything you can to achieve that dream, okay? Now, let me just tell you, I remember, when I was a kid, I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want my wife listening, but she knows the story. But, there was remember we had puppy love, and there was that one guy or girl that you absolutely wanted to get connected with. Let's say you were in junior high or you were in high school or elementary school, but it was that one person. Now, let me ask you this. Have any of you ever been in love before? You've been in love, right? As a little kid. And it's kind of scary because you're like, wait a second, as a little kid, I'm like 10 years old. And, yeah, absolutely. Even at 10, you have that puppy love. And some of you guys were in junior high or high school. How many of you guys remember where you had to get that person's phone number? And so to get that person's phone number, I'm not talking today. I'm talking like 20 years ago, maybe, right? Where some of us, we were in class and we try to figure out how to get connected to that person. So what we did is we figured out who their friends were, and then we went and connected with their friends. And then from their friends, we asked them if we can get such and such's phone number. Okay. And so we got that person's phone number. And do you remember one way or another, you ended up calling them at night? Hey, do me a favor. This screen over here is very distracting for me. So yeah, thank you. Sorry about that, you guys. I've got about like 12 different videos in my studio here, and I've got all these different commercials and things going up. And so it's a little distracting. But remember when you turned around and you gave that person a call and you were terrified, right? And then you finally called, and then that person that picked up the phone was the girl's father. And when that father picked up the phone, you hung up because you were so scared you didn't even know what to say to the father. So you hang up, and then you call back, and later on you finally ask if you can talk to the girl. And then you finally got that girl on the phone. And then you were up at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You're on your phone. You're underneath your bed sheets and your covers and whatever, and you're whispering to each other, and you're talking till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and soon to discover, wow, it's now time to get up and go to school the next day, right? And so you started to have these little conversations like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite movie? You started to have all these discussions. But despite the fact, and then of course, you guys got together, you guys, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and, you live happily ever after. But here's the thing, or maybe you didn't, I don't know. But the bottom line is that you had a dream, you had an image of something that you had, a perception, a vision in your mind. And that dream basically inspired you so much that even though you could have been rejected by the girl, rejected by the friends, whatever it was, it fueled your emotions, your mind, your will, that even if you could have gotten rejected, you did it anyway. And so I want you to know that you got to have those kinds of dreams. And there are different kinds of dreams, whatever they are. Let's talk about the idealistic dreams. Let's go to the next slide. An idealistic dream is the way the world would be if you were in charge, right? Like how many of you have ever said, oh my God, if I had all the money in the world, I'd go to this country and that country and I'd set up orphanages and all that. And if I was president or vice president or mayor or governor, this is what I would do, right? You have these idealistic dreams. Next slide. Well, just so you know, for me, I went to a country called Nicaragua with a good friend of mine. And we went to this country called Nicaragua. And, you know, I have these big telephoto cameras and lenses as part of my hobby, just because I got 4 kids, right? I got a boy, girl. And people say, well, how'd you do that? Well, you just order them, right? Online at boygirl.com. I'm kidding. That's a joke. You don't do that. But I was blessed, right? My wife and I were blessed. We have boy, girl. But as they're growing up and playing sports, I got into photography and videography and all that. So I go to Nicaragua and I'm in the convoy and I teamed up with some other organizations called UNICEF, Save the Children and Care. They put us in their convoys. We're going up into the jungles of Nicaragua and we come across this little area, it's a little stream with some women and children. And what do you think they were doing? Let me tell you what they were doing here. They weren't like laying out and, you know, catching some rays. They were actually doing their laundry. And what blew me away is that the kids were giggling. They're having a great time. The mothers were laughing and it just blew my mind away in how happy they were, despite the fact that they did not have a front-loading washer, dryer. They didn't have Bounce. They didn't have Snuggles. They didn't have Downy and all that kind of stuff. However way you do your laundry, it just blew my mind that they're sitting there doing the old way, where they go into a stream, they wash their clothes, they use soap called Ivory soap, wash their clothes, rinse it, put it in these buckets and bags, and they walk 2, 3, 4 miles back to the village. And then when they get there, they actually hang their clothes on a line with these little wooden clips. And so I want you to realize that when I saw this and realized how primitive that these people were living, I wanted to do something about it. I felt like they don't even have washers and dryers, you know? So so no matter how bad you think your circumstances are right now, you know, it's not as bad as you think compared to other people, right? I don't mean to discount what your circumstances are, but, you know, I want you to realize that people in other places are even worse off. I have another couple that we went out to dinner with, and we had another family, 2 other couples that we joined up with that night. It was a dinner, and it was like 4 couples. It was 8 of us. And prior to us going to dinner, this husband and wife wanted to, you know, talk about their marriage and how to work out their marriage. And they wanted to consult with my wife, Arlene, and I. And they were talking to me about how bad their life was. And so we go to dinner with these other 2 couples, and they're now talking about their marriage and how do you balance this and how do you handle this and who does this and who does the things with the kids. And we're having this conversation. And like these couples were kind of, you know, they were kind of going at it at dinner. And so the couple that we had, friends with us, you know, we're driving back home after dinner and they said, John, that was one of the best dinner meetings ever. And I was like, wow, why would you say that? What did you get out of it? And they said, what we learned was, as we're talking to these other couples, like their circumstances were worse. Like we didn't realize how bad other marriages and how much they're struggling compared to what we're going through. In fact, I thought, you know, after looking at the ways those husbands and wives were treating each other, we actually felt like our marriage is pretty good, you know? And so you got to realize that sometimes you think your circumstances are bad, but what about the person who's sitting on life support right now in a hospital, right? I mean, what do you think they're thinking about? They're certainly not thinking about their cars and all their toys. They're hanging on for their life. So when we saw this in this country, I was like, okay, I want to do something about it. Next slide. And as we're going up into the jungles of Nicaragua, this is what we call Nicaraguan toll charges, right? And these were nice, kind people, and we had a great conversation with them. And you know, there's a lot of people, even in America today and other parts of the world, where they don't really want to do anything. They just want money, right? Hey, can you just give me some money? And not that I, you know, don't like that. It's just you don't help their situation. See, you know, there's an old proverb that says that if you teach a man how to fish, they can eat for a lifetime, right? But if you give them a fish, they can eat for a day, or vice versa. Give them a fish and they can eat for a day, but if you teach them how to fish, they can eat for a lifetime, right? So you've all heard that, or something like that, a similar proverb. And so when someone puts up a rope and stops your car and says, just give me money, we're not going to hand out money. But I want to give money to people who want to learn and do something with their life, right? I want to go, and let me give you an example. Let's go to the next slide. So I go up to the mountains. We're now in the jungles, beautiful country, very green and tropical. And here's a young boy. And this young boy right here, I don't know, he's about 10 years old, 10 years old. And he wakes up in the morning. He's got some booties on. He's got a shovel, and he's out there and he's taking mud from the side of the road. And he's patching in little holes on the trail, right? Going up to the mountains. And I said to the people in the car, I go, oh my God, who does this guy work for? And everybody was saying, he's just a volunteer. Like, this kid woke up and said, man, I want to be the solution to the problem. And that just touched me. I mean, it just crushed me that a little kid, in most families today in America, their kids wake up and they're playing games. I mean, they got these awesome computers and they got PlayStation and Xbox 4K screens that are 50, 65 inch. Right. And here's a kid doesn't even have internet in his community. Right. And so let alone, play Xbox or PlayStation. And he now wakes up and I'm like, what does he make money? He says, no, he's just a volunteer. So I roll down my window and I give him $1. And the people said to me, hey, let me just tell you something, John. This kid with $1, man, that's going to probably put food on his plate for a few days. The average person in this country makes like $10 a month. Okay, teachers make $150 a month, and that's like a big deal. Next slide.
For complementary resources from my book, my complimentary e-course, The Power of the Question, or recommended reads, go to www.thequestion.com/resources. For more information on my coaching or mentoring, go to www.bernardo-moya.com. And
as we get up to this little village, we come across this, I don't know how to explain it, but there's like a building. We go in, and of course I look scary because I got all these cameras and just super, like, some of these kids have never seen this type of camera equipment, and they're all attached to harnesses on my body, and they're freaking out. And so as I walk into this village and I walk into this room, I see this boy like boogieing right to the corner of this room, and he's standing there and he looks terrified. And so the very limited Spanish that I have, and I think my Spanish is pretty good, but I go up to this, I walk up to this kid and with these other ladies that were working there, and we said to this little kid, the lady said, mijo, mijo, which means like little one, ¿qué te pasa? Which means like in Spanish, what's wrong? And the little kid responds up and he goes, ¿sabes qué? You know what? And he says, tengo miedo, which means I'm afraid, I have fear. And so the lady says, ¿por qué, mijo? Why, little one? Well, why do you have fear? And he says, because, and he says it in Spanish, he goes, I've never seen anyone who looks like him, right? I mean, like, which means he's pointing to me, right? Because this little kid, sitting up in the jungles of Nicaragua, right, had never seen an Asian man his entire life. I mean, he was like, oh my God, he looks different than all of us. But he was kind of tripping too, because I did speak Spanish to him, the little Spanish that I know, and he was tripping. And so we got connected, right? And we became good friends, and he started to, kind of like warm up to me a little bit. And then while I was there for a couple weeks, me and this kid, we just had this great bonding. And, our family, my wife and I, we always wanted to have 6 kids, and we're totally blessed to have 4 right now. We're delighted to have our healthy 4 kids, but we always wanted to have 6. And I called up my wife. I'm like, hey, honey, what do you think about adopting a little boy and a girl from Nicaragua? And she's like, I think that'd be great. So we went through the adoption process to find out that the government would not allow us to take any of these children from their country and bring them over to the United States. So this is what caused us to want to go out there and do something in those countries, right? And so let me look at this boy. He's so precious. And what we found out is that this area that we came to, there were 150 children that were all orphans. And the way their system is designed, this kid will never know who his biological mother or father be. Almost impossible to find out who his biological mother and father is. And by the way, what's really sad too, in a lot of ways, is that these girls, the average age that give birth to these children are 14 to 15 years of age. And then that's what's so, it's just so tragic to see this kind of stuff, right? Next slide. This image here is where my friend Jeff and I actually slept for about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. When I returned home from Nicaragua, I had bags all the way down to my chin. Right. And my wife looked at me and said, "Oh, my God, honey, what happened to you?" And I said, "Honey, I have not slept in like 2 weeks." OK, I mean, it was so scary living out there in the jungles in the middle of the night. All you hear is sounds like of animals. Woo, woo, you hear that all night. I was like, "Hey, Jeff, are you awake?" He's like, "Hell yeah, I'm awake." We were up all night. We're like making spears and stuff just in case something like came through our door, like some crazy weird animal. And so it was scary. And yet these little kids are walking through the jungles in the middle of the night like it's their backyard. It was like not a big deal. So I want you to know as I go to this next slide, this is me and these children. I'm doing a magic trick for these kids, right? And they're calling me bruja, which is like witchcraft, right? He's a witch because they've never seen. It's not like, David Copperfield is going to go to the jungles of Nicaragua and show these kids like, illusions and magic, right? So they're totally just having a time of their life. Next slide. This is an image of me and these two boys. These two boys actually thought I was Jackie Chan, right? So here these two kids are like, they've never seen an Asian guy like, is this Jackie? Is Jackie Chan, And so not quite like that, but, what a beautiful group of children. And so I want you to know that there are so many things you could do if you had the resources to do it, right? Like money to go out there and help people around the world. Next slide. Then now we're talking about dreams, romantic dreams, right? Belief that some person will make you the happiest person in the world. And for me, that person is my wife. Next slide. And so this is a picture of my wife and I. Oh, wait a second. How did that get in there? No, that's not the right picture. Next slide. Oh, there we go. Yes. Oh my God. Oh, I'm so glad my wife was not here to see that. This is my wife right here. So sorry about that. Oh my Lord. Anyway, so here she is. This is the person that I wake up next to almost every single day. And my God, what would I do without her? Right. But hey, it could be the person, your romantic dreams. Next slide. How about a career dream, right? Maybe it's a belief that some career success that will make you happy. John Maxwell, one of my favorite authors, says that you have to love what you do and do what you love, right? So for those of you that are out there where your parents are living vicariously through you, right? A lot of you have heard your parents say, you've got to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer. And, a lot of times, the Asian culture, we hear that a lot. But it's not just the Asian culture. I mean, the Middle Eastern culture, right? A lot of people from, Persian families, Indians, from India. So many different ethnic groups, right? And even people here in America where parents say, you got to go to college, Ivy League, Harvard, right? George Washington University to become a doctor or a lawyer, but you're miserable, right? You hate what you do every day. You wake up and dread going to work. And this is why you have to find out what is your calling, what is your purpose, what is it that you want, right? To do for the rest of your life. I can tell you that Bernardo Moya right now, I mean, there's a lot of things that he could do to make a lot of money. But Bernardo loves helping people. I mean, he just genuinely, and if you guys ever get a chance to meet Bernardo, you'll know what I'm talking about, right? Bernardo is about serving people. Bernardo is the epitome of servant leadership, right? I wish you guys will all, at the end of this, email him, text his team and just tell them how grateful you are for them to organize all this. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes, the timing, the speaker lineup, the content, all the behind the scenes, the advertising. I mean, oh my Lord. I mean, so much to detail. And Bernardo loves what he does, right? And so you have to do what you love, right? And for me, I got into a lot of businesses, but my career was I always wanted to be in the movie and film industry. So next slide. So I read a book in 1995, 1996 called Think and Grow Rich. Read the book, absolutely changed my life, took all the principles and started to apply them. And fortunately, we are just blessed financially, knock on wood. We are so grateful thank God every single day. Like, oh my God, is this real? Right. And, we went to my team, Scott Servine, who's the director, Andrew Graham, one of the producers. We went to the Napoleon Hill Foundation, had a great conversation. Don Green, the executive board director of the board, the executive director gave us the rights to make a movie based on the original book that was written in 1937. Now, if you have not read this book, Think and Grow Rich, and you are you really want to be an entrepreneur, it is an absolute must read. It's like the holy grail of business, right? And so now I know some of you are like, well, I don't like to read, and reading, it's like I start to fall asleep, I lose my attention. Hey, I get it. So then watch a movie. Right. And in fact, one of the things that Bernardo and his team is doing is they're going to let you watch this movie. OK, you're going to watch this movie sometime this week because you're participating in this program. So instead of, buying it and going out there and, acquiring the DVD, hey, you can go and watch it right here at the Best You Expo. Right. So next slide. Now, there's several different versions of this book. Just go ahead and hit it 3-4 times. This is the Black choice, the Latino, the women's choice. Sharon Lecter, oh my God. I mean, it's become a great friend of mine, amazing woman, one of the most giving, one of the sweetest ladies I've ever met. And the things that she does and how she's working, with politicians and government just to bring financial literacy. She's such a huge advocate. And she wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women, right? Now, isn't it amazing that you've got the Black choice, Latino, you got the women's choice, but there was no Asian choice. And so I went to the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and again, I asked them if I can get the rights to write the Asian version of this, okay? And miraculously, everything doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And he did. And I wrote this book, and the book just came out. So with the book and movie, we went on a tour. Next slide. And so we went on this tour called the Think and Grow Rich World Tour. And in my book, you guys, I've got a lot of people in here. And I mean, Elon Musk, Jack Ma, right? Dwayne Johnson, Steve Aoki, and the list goes on and on and on. What was their secret? Like, what part of Think and Grow Rich, or was it something else that attributed to their success? Like, what was that pivoting moment where all of a sudden, like, the aha moment went on, and the next thing you know, their business went the other way. In a other way, meaning it went up. Okay. So we went on a tour. Next slide. And this started last year in 2019, January. Our intention was to go to 12 countries, 34 states. We call it the Think and Grow Rich Legacy World Tour, which is where I met Bernardo, right? I met Bernardo on this tour, and I went on this tour to help everyone else. And it's crazy how, they say that what you learn after you think you know it all, right? So a lot of times people reach a certain point in their life where they go, wow, I make $250,000 now a year. Like, I'm good. Like, I got this all down, right? Or you make $1 million a year and you're like, man, I'm good. Like, I'm there, I'm like, ooh, I'm hot shot. Like, well, you might be making $1 million a year, but why not make $1 million a month? Why not go make $1 million a week and $1 million a day? What if you could do that? Right. And so I want you to know that as I went out there and started helping people, it's crazy what I learned. Right. And the people I got connected with. And I really do see Bernardo like a brother from another mother. We have so many similarities, and the things that we want to do, our calling and our purpose, and people think we're both crazy to do some of the things that we're doing. But how awesome was it that I connected with people? So again, the Best You Expo is a way for you guys to get connected to people. You're going to meet some of these speakers. You should follow up with them, hit them on Instagram, follow up on emails, participate in some of their programs, right? That's what it's all about. Then there's Destination Dreams, right? Next slide. Let's talk about destinations. And I don't want to get too much, but you got a position, a title, or an award, or whatever, an Oscar. Those are your destination dreams, right? And then there's material dreams. Let's talk about that. Next slide. So some people will say, John, that guy, John Shin, he's very materialistic. Well, I mean, look, I'm not that I'm materialistic, but if you gave me cars, a key to a Rolls Royce, or to a, let's say, a Prius, What would you take? I mean, seriously, I go, hey, you guys, here I got keys to a Rolls Royce and keys to a Prius. Which one would you take? Right? I would think it's a rhetorical question. You're going to say, I want to take the Rolls Royce. And some of you say, no, I'll take the Prius. Why? Why would you do that? Right? You should take the Rolls Royce, right? Sell it and go buy yourself 50 Priuses. Okay. I mean, so now you got to learn how to make some decisions, like business decisions, right? So yeah, I mean, if I were to say, do I want to live in a studio apartment, which is where I lived in, which is just basically 4 walls when I first met my wife, do you think that's what I said I wanted my whole life? No, I dreamed of what it would like to have that big driveway. So the next slide I want to show you here is the driveway to my house. It's a 1/4 mile, right? A little bit over, just to get up to the top of my house. Okay. And then the next slide will show you what my house looks like. This is my compound. You see on the right-hand side, that's the driveway up to my place. There's like 3 homes right there. You're like, wow, his neighbors are right next to each other. No. The one in the middle is the main house. The one in the front of it to the right is the guest house. That's where some of you will have a chance to stay. And over on the other house is where it's like a big old basketball court. We got garages. We've got eucalyptus steam rooms. And I mean, it's like, an armory. I mean, we got it all, right? It's all contained. All right. Here's the next slide, right? We own, go ahead, next slide. We've got our own water wells. We got our own avocado trees and apple trees and fruit trees. And we could pretty much live there with just what we plant on our grounds, on our ranch. Okay. Next slide, just to give you an idea. I'd like to hold some masterminds in this room right here. Invite some of you guys to come. I'll give you guys a tour. We'll do some shotgun shooting and some skeet shooting, some bow and arrows, some archery. We'll play some games, and then we'll get right down to it, right? Next slide. This is my other home. Bernardo's been to this house several times, right? Next slide. Now, let me ask you, do you guys ever thinking about buying an island? Do you ever think about buying an island? I hope you do, right? Why not dream big? If you're going to dream, you might as well dream big, right? So I want you to think about buying an island. So let me just tell you, I bought my first island. When you go to the Philippines, there's thousands of islands that you can actually buy. And I wanted to buy one of those. So I bought my very first island. And I want to show you guys a picture of it in my next slide. Here you go. Here's my island. Okay. There's my island. Wait, yo, what's up? Why are you guys laughing at my island right now? Don't be laughing at my island. That island's bigger than what you have. You don't even have an island. In fact, you couldn't even imagine owning an island, but I did, and I got one. See, that's Bernardo out there. I took him fishing and took him to my island. He's actually out there catching some fish, some breakfast for us. I'm kidding, you guys. Now, let's talk about a real island. Here, let me show you the next slide, because here I'm going to show you where we went to Costa Rica and actually bought 2.5 miles of coastline and built our own house. In fact, I'd love to, when this day comes, we're all going to get together one of these days, right? We're going to have a live event. I want to invite you guys to our island, those 2 little islands out there. That's part of what we own. That's part of our ownership. But the next slide will show you how we built our own homes there, okay? So a bunch of us, we all built our homes there. Mariah Carey's there now, right? Tom Brady's out there. They're all part of this group of people where we all bought our own homes in paradise, okay? Next slide. This is what it looks like on the inside, okay? I mean, this alone right here is about 12,000 square feet, of course. And then we went and bought nice cars, right? Next slide. Yeah, I mean, if I did, like I said, I drive a Rolls. I have a Ghost. My wife has something called a Flying Spur. The next slide will show you her Bentley. Okay, the next slide will show you her sports car. She wanted a McLaren, and she felt bad. After I bought this for her, she's like, well, honey, I think you should get one. We bought the very first 570S that was ever brought into the United States. This is literally number 1 of all the 570 McLarens in the United States that was ever brought in. We were the first one. That's why they took a photo of it with us and all that. It was a big deal. It was like an unveiling of the very first 570S McLaren. So she said, I feel bad. I want you to get some exotic cars too. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I did. And the next slide kind of shows you what I bought. Okay. So this is my fleet of cars. I think we got 18 cars now. Of course, I had to buy one from my mother and my father in the next slide. So, they wanted a Mercedes, nothing fancy. So I got them a Mercedes. And then next slide will show you our first yacht. So we wanted to buy a yacht, right? Why not? Again, dream big, right? You can get all this stuff if you dream it. In fact, Napoleon Hill says, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And so I wanted to buy my first yacht. So the next slide will show you my yacht, right? And so there you go. So you're laughing again, right? Why are you laughing at my yacht? You don't even have a yacht and you're laughing at my yacht, right? I was going to give you a ride on the roof, but no, I'm kidding. Let's go to the next slide. So here's our yacht. The picture doesn't do justice, but it's about 70 feet. And so we got a 70-foot yacht. I'd love to have some of you guys on that yacht where we could do some small little masterminds, maybe 5 or 10 of you, right? We'll get a chef. They'll cook up some lunch, dinner. We'll just hang out on the boat, cruise around. Maybe we'll go out in the ocean. I don't know. But I want to do something fun like that with some of you, right? Then there's celebrity dreams. The next slide is about, do you want to be a celebrity? Be careful what you ask for. Well, I did. I at one point in my career, I was like, I want to be a celebrity, right? I want to be a movie. I wanted to be the Asian version of Tom Cruise, right? And do all these cool action scenes like with Jackie Chan. And so I met a man who got me into the movie industry. And the next slide will show you this man. Very iconic in Hollywood. His name is John Voight. And so he became my acting coach, got me in a couple movies. And then, of course, how cool is it that at one point, we're living in a studio, my wife and I, and barely enough money to pay our bills. And the next thing you know, the next slide will show how my children are now going to the same school with Will Smith's kids, right? So now we're hanging out with Will Smith. The next slide shows you now my wife also hanging out with Will, which kind of, I'm like, whoa, what's up, man? I'm like, so Arlene's hanging out with Will now. The next slide shows you, Barbara Corcoran, a shark on a TV show called The Shark Tank. And the next slide, this is, and by the way, Barbara is in our movie Think and Grow Rich, right? This is Stedman Graham, who flew out from Chicago, right? Because he heard about the world tour and loved it and wanted to do something together and go out there and change the world. And if you don't know Stedman, his other half is Oprah Winfrey. And I think you should read Stedman's book because he's got some great content, right? Now, just so you know, Stedman is like 6'9", used to be a former basketball player. And if you look at the next slide, you're like, okay, well, wait a second. That's me, right? So you're like, man, John's tall. No, I was standing on a chair. And Stedman was like saying, that is the funniest thing. No one's ever done that with me. But anyway, great photo. Next slide shows you Steve Aoki, who's in my book, Think and Grow Rich. The next slide shows Mario Lopez and I. And by the way, he's got a great podcast show. You should listen to Mario. We started hosting some events and some awards events. This one was something that we did in the East Coast. Actually, it was in Chicago. The next slide shows you all this. And then, of course, the next slide, is the question that everybody asks. How did this all happen to us? You know how it happened to us? Because despite all the adversity in the world, guess what? We still dream. The next slide, as I said, was the definition of a dream. An inspiring picture. And right now, what I want you to do is stop watching CNN, which stands for constant negative news, and glue yourself to the speakers, right? Go find out where they're speaking next and go learn from some of these people. So my challenge for you in the next slide is this, okay? What is your dream? Right now, as you're sitting here, I hope I fired you up somehow for you to start dreaming again, right? So all I want you to know is that the few minutes I spent with you here, it's not about me bragging about, wow, look at all the things I have, even though if you took it that way, you took it the wrong way. Okay. My intention was to say, guess what? The difference between me and everybody else is that I was a dreamer and I'm still a dreamer right now. And the next slide I want you to know is that you don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great like today, right? What I want you to do in the next slide is I want you to what? Take like your phone or your computer, you hit Control Alt Delete, don't you? Right? If you want to reset your computer, you go Control Alt Delete. On your phone, you hit a couple buttons and you hit the reset button. I want you today to reset yourself for what the rest of the year is going to look like. Don't dwell on what's happened in the last 5-6 months because that's not going to serve you, right? I mean, you can sit there all day long. I coulda, shoulda, woulda, but instead, what are you going to do now? The next slide, I want you to know that you have a choice right now. Is you can either be bitter or you can get better. See, a lot of people right now, they're out there just bitter and they're angry. Well, how's that serving them? Right? A lot of people are doing things to cause harm to other people. How does that serve you? It doesn't. right? It doesn't make you feel. A lot of times you go out there to vent, and some people don't know how to handle their stress and all these things that's built up, but causing harm to others is not going to make it any better, right? It just makes you bitter. And then later on, you're going to regret that you actually did some of those things. So what I want you to do is start doing some things that you should be doing. Taking the next slide is to act. Okay, I want you to start taking action, but for the right reasons, right? I want you to start taking appropriate action. I want your actions to be consistent where you do it every single day. And then I want you to be tenacious about it, okay? If I had more time, I'd talk about just those three things for another couple hours, but we don't. And I want you to follow the next slide because that's going to tell you how you're going to navigate through all this. Just hit it 3 times. And I want you to, the GPS is an acronym which talks about your goals. The goals is what is it? What do you need to get done? Right? The P is your plans, is how you're going to get it done, right? And then, of course, S is the schedule. When are you going to get it done? So follow your GPS. And if some of you right now are stuck going, well, I don't know what my goals are, and I don't know how to plan, and I don't know how to schedule. Well, let me help you with those kind of things, right? Because all these things right here, right, requires guts. The next slide says, and Napoleon Hill says, go ahead and click it twice. There you go. Is in the book Think and Grow Rich, he says that you have to have a burning desire. The starting point of all achievement is to have a burning desire, and you got to have the guts to do it. And the word guts, G-U-T-S, is an acronym that stands for Great Urge to Succeed. Okay? That's how bad you got to want it, right? You can't sit there and go, man, I just, I'm going to give up and I'm going to surrender. Man, you've got to be a champion today more than ever at this very moment in a time of crisis where you've got to have that burning desire to go after your dreams. I want you to know right now that people are saying the market is crashing. The market's not crashing. Maybe your investments are crashing, right? They go, my business sucks, right? Everybody's business, not everybody. Maybe your business model sucks, but that's probably because you don't have right systems. You don't have a coach. You don't have a mentor. But the next slide, I want you to know that you got to start following this acronym, which stands for TFA.
For more information on collaborating, partnering, sponsoring, supporting, or speaking at any of our events or finding out more about our legacy clubs, go to www.thebestyou.co. If you're interested in finding out more about the amazing content we have, please go to www.thebestyou.online and get your 14-day free trial now.
Which stands for this. Thoughts. What are you thinking about right now? Okay, if you're thinking COVID-19, protests, riots, the world's coming to an end, civil war, those are your thoughts. It's going to affect the way you feel. And the way you feel will determine and dictate your actions, and your actions will then become your results. So right now, I want you to start thinking differently, right? What are your thoughts? Right? Do you want to go make a lot of money? Because let me just tell you, in a time of adversities opens up new doors for what? Opportunities. Okay. And so I want you to know that it's time for you to shift the way you think. And you're like, well, I have a hard time thinking differently, John. That's okay. Let me help you with that too. Right. The next slide is this, Albert Einstein says that the world we have created, right, is a product of the way you think. And it cannot be changed without changing the way you think. And so what my biggest challenge is, okay, is this. I know you're all wired for success. You're wired for success, but you're programmed to fail. You're programmed to fail because of the stuff, the influences all around you, right? All those things we have to reprogram. And I'm going to just hit the slide twice here. Go to the next slide and right here, and then go to the next one. Stop right there. So I want you to go back. Oh, go back. All right, never mind. Well, I was going to ask you guys, what does that stand for? What does that say right there? And I gave it away, but it does look like what? Good times are here. It looks like good times are here, right? Because that's what your mind reads. That's what you see. But if we hit the next slide, here we go. Boom, there it is. It doesn't say, although good times are here. Despite what you think, because you're only watching the media. The media is just giving you one side, right? But I can tell you right now, man, I don't want to say this too loud, but hey, because there are haters out there, right? What does haters stand for? Next slide. Okay. The haters, right, is an acronym, and this is what it stands for. Go ahead, hit the slide. having anger towards everyone reaching success. So I want you to know that right now, good things are happening. It's happening for me and it's happening to a lot of people that I know. But guess what? The haters will say, how can you be doing so well during a time of a pandemic? Well, we're doing okay. All right. So here's the thing. We're doing better than okay. Right. So the next slide I want you to know is despite what's going on, don't you give up, man. Don't you give up. Don't you give up on me. Don't you give up on yourself. Don't you give up on your spouse, your parents, and your children, because your children are watching you right now. If you've got kids, they're watching you. How is mom and dad handling this stuff? I want you to start becoming a ferocious competitor, right? You got to compete. And I don't want you to go compete with other people, but I want you to compete with you, right? One of the best things is they go, John, you're a competitor. Yeah, I am. I hate losing. People say, you know what, John, you're always about winning. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, man. Winning is everything for me. If winning wasn't everything, why do we keep scoring games, right? There's a reason why we keep score. Could keep a tally of who's winning, right? And so I am ferociously competitive. I mean, like right now, let me just tell you something. Whatever it is, if I get challenged, I want to be better than you at that game. That's how competitive I am. Right? I'm so competitive that even when I was playing the little games with my kids when they were growing up, there was a game called Candyland. You guys remember that game? Candyland. Like you have to spin this little dial and the little dial moves forward and we have to move the gingerbread man to the gingerbread house. And my kids were beating me and I was getting pissed off, right? With my little 5-year-old and 6-year-old because that's how competitive I am. So I want you to know that the next slide here says, if you're not the lead dog, your view never changes, right? I mean, if you're sitting there and you go and sit with these Alaskan Huskies, if you're the lead dog, guess what? You've got a beautiful scenery. You're looking at the beautiful glaciers and the mountains, and you're seeing the trees with all the beautiful snow packed on top of the trees. But if you're not the lead dog, you're looking at someone's ass. That's right, all day long, okay? And if that's the way you want to live, then guess what? You're not going to be the lead dog, because I want you to know if you want to have a different scene, you better be the lead dog. Next slide. So I want you to know that I have invested and started a lot of businesses, i.e. the next slide. Some of these companies right here are the few that I still own today. Just hit it twice, right? I own all these companies, right? Or I sold these companies. I started all from scratch. So one thing I figured out is I know how to start businesses and how to sell businesses, okay? And so here's the thing. The next slide says this. Right now, a lot of us are in prayer. We're praying right now. Like this little kid, he's got his eyes. He's squinting his eyes. Look at that. So cute, right? And then say the thing is, when you pray and you ask for things from your Heavenly Father, your Creator, they say, God, please, could you help me out and send me $1 million? Could you help me out with whatever it is? Do you ever wonder that maybe God may be sending you what you're asking for in a different package? Like, do you think that God's going to send you with a bunch of Ben Franklins in a briefcase with a FedEx tracking number to your house? Right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I don't know. All I do know is this, is that I believe that your Heavenly Father answers your prayers in different ways, and he sends it to you in a different package. The fact that you're tuned in to the Best You EXPO could be that answer. That whether it's me or one of the other speakers, something that clicks and the light bulb goes on. That could be your answer. And I hope you find your calling, your purpose somewhere in this expo this week. And your job is to not just hold this information, but go call a couple of your friends today. Just say, oh my God, I was just on the Best You EXPO. I was just on the main stage and I just heard somebody speak. Right? Whether it was Bill Walsh or John Shin or, Forbes Riley or Les Brown or, Jack Canfield or my good friend Sharon Lecter or whoever. Man, I hope that this expo will change your life. Right? And then once you find who that person is that you connect with, next slide, ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for mentorship, ask without fear. You'd be surprised how many people like me are just looking for the student who wants to be top. I am so hungry right now to find the student that wants to go and do the dirty, right? And let me just tell you, the next slide, you ever wonder when some people are poor, what that means? Like, what does poor mean? P-O-O-R? Let me tell you what it means. The next slide tells you it is an acronym that stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. Okay. So I want you to know right now, I got a homework assignment for you guys. Next slide. And I got about 10 minutes, so we're going to go super fast. You're going to go to, this one says the California Department of Unclaimed Properties. So every state has this, all 50 states. And it basically says, whenever you leave money behind in an account, whether it's for like the utility company or whatever it is, there are unclaimed property. Let's say somebody died and had a bunch of money in their retirement account, a life insurance policy or whatever, but made you the beneficiary, but you didn't even know. You didn't know you're the beneficiary because they died without ever telling you you were the beneficiary. So as the benefactor, these people couldn't find out where you lived, how to get a hold of you. So they took the money and sent it to the State Department of Unclaimed Property. Okay. So next slide, what I want you to do is once you go in there, okay, I want you to go to unclaimed property search. Be careful you don't get to some of these scavenger companies and they ask you to start putting in all this weird information to get your contact and sell it. But I did this for one person. Go ahead. And we typed this in and this popped up. They were saying to me, they said, John, we need money right now and we need money. And I was like, well, let me see. And I popped this in and I find this and I go, did you guys ever live at this address? And they're like, yeah. And I go, you know what? And turns out like this is them. I said, do you know that right now there's 172,000? Go ahead and pop that up. Next slide. Right now there's $172,000 sitting with the state of California. Your money, tax-free. You can access it. No fees, no catch, no tricks. It's yours. And they receive this money. And this is why I say, sometimes when you ask for a thing, God sends you something that you're asking for in a different package. And so this family was forever grateful. And so this is in all 50 states, right? Now, if you want to know more information about this, please feel free to reach out to me. All right. Now, I want you guys to know, I want you to go to the next slide. And this is my business card. So I want you to take your cell phones, just take your phone, go to your camera, and I want you to just click, not even click, just it'll scan it. You just take your phone, go up there and scan it. And then my phone number will pop up. And that's the new business card. I want you to click that little thing, and then I want you to hit save. And now you've got my information, okay? And you're like, oh my God, is John crazy? He's giving out his personal cell phone? Absolutely. The reason I'll do that because most people won't even call. Most people won't even reach out. So I'm here to let you guys know you're more than welcome to reach out to me and my staff. And we're here, and I want you to go and create your own QR code. So I want you to go to the next slide. And this is what you're going to do. I'm going to let you guys create your own QR code right now. You're going to go to goqr.me, goqr.me. And then what I want you to do is I'm going to put all your information in there. And then guess what you're going to do? At the very bottom, a little QR code will pop up. And that's going to be your new business card. That is like the coolest thing. Next time you go somewhere and people go, you got a business card? Yeah, you whip out your phone. Like, here, take your cell phone out. Go ahead and take a picture of that. And boom, your information now goes up on their phone. So it's pretty cool that you can do that. All right. Next slide. I want you to be careful as you guys are now venturing off. If you're existing entrepreneurs, you want to be an entrepreneur, there are dream stealers out there. There are dream hijackers out there, and they are going to rain in on your parade. Okay, so the next slide here is this, okay? Get rid of these toxic people. Get rid of them as quickly as you can, like cancer, right? You don't need these people in your life, okay? You don't need them. I don't even know why you want them if they're toxic. It's like saying, I want cancer in my life. Who wants cancer? You cut it out, right? You get rid of it. You stick it under radiation. And people say, well, John, how am I going to do that? How do I get rid of people out of my life? It's really simple. I've got a few different strategies. On the next slide, why don't you do this? How about you go and change your voicemail greeting? Really to what? To this. This is what you do on your voicemail greeting. You say, I'm making some changes in my life. If you don't hear from me, you're one of them. All right? That's what you're going to say. And you're going to leave that, and you don't have to call those people back. Stop calling them back. Why? The next slide, guys. Why would you want, right? Why would you want to have dull, disillusioned, dadgum, toxic people around you, right? Let me just tell you something. Next slide. I tell those people that are talking about me behind my back, right? Keep talking about me. Keep talking about me behind my back and watch God keep blessing me in front of your face. Because isn't it funny that all these people, they talk crap about other people, but the people that are being talked about keep on growing. They keep on improving. They keep on learning, and they keep on earning. So if you look at the word learn, the word learn says you earn. The more you learn, the more you earn, right? And the next slide, let me just tell you this. Stop taking constructive criticism from someone who hasn't constructed anything. Oh my God! There are so many yappers, right? Oh, da, 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 da. And guess what? They've never done anything, nothing with their life. So what I want you to do is stop taking constructive criticism from them. So the next slide I want you to know is what makes up 100% in life. And numbers don't lie. So let me just tell you, I had nothing better to do. So hit the button there. And I wanted to know 1 through 26. There's 26 letters. Isn't that kind of interesting? 26 letters. And so I lined them up, right? Like D is 4, J is 10, M is 13. And so someone said that knowledge is everything. Okay, so the next slide, let's do this. So I said, if knowledge is everything, click. Then guess what? If I add up those numbers, click. Guess what that knowledge only adds up to? Click, 96%. So knowledge isn't everything. Knowledge does not make up 100% in life. The next slide. Okay, so someone said, well, then it's got to be hard work. So I added up the numbers, click, right? And then guess what? Hard work only ends up equaling 98%. So we know hard work isn't either. That's not it. Because if it was hard work and knowledge, there'd be a lot of smart people who are rich. There'd be a lot of people who work really hard physically that would be rich, but they're not. So I was like, what could it possibly be? So I looked up another word. Check it out. Next slide. So I looked up the word ass kissing. Check it out. And I added up all the letters or all the numbers. And guess what? That ends up 118%. So that puts you over the top, man. So isn't that something? I'm kidding. You don't want to be ass kissing. You don't want to be doing that. Man, I mean, your pride. I mean, you just can't do it. So let's go to the next slide. I looked up the word attitude, right? And look at the word attitude, click, and guess what? It ends up becoming 100%. See, your attitude is everything. No matter how bad you think it is or how bad it is for you today. Let's say you woke up today and you're like, man, my day's already starting off really crappy. Man, you got to look at the other side of that, which is what? You woke up, right? And so I want you to know as you woke up today, time is not running out, but your life is. Your life is what? It's ticking away, folks. Let me just tell you, some people that are us 50s and the 60s and 70s, we sit there and go, how did this happen? How did this happen? I'm already 50. I'm already 60 or whatever. I'm already 40. I don't know. But time what? Flies. And time is not running out, but your life is. You need a sense of urgency right now. And you cannot go to where you want to go without a coach, without a mentor. And so let me tell you, the next slide here is this. What you need is you need a business mentor. And that mentor needs to be, next slide, me. I want you to work with me. I want to work with you in some way. I don't know what it is, but I want to find out. Because I think that if we connect with some of you, not all of you, because I don't think some of you guys, there's a great quote. They say, when it's all said and done, more is said than done. There's too many talkers, not enough doers. I want the ones that are doers. And if you're a doer, here's what I want you to do. Next slide. I've got a mastermind that's coming up. It's a 5-hour mastermind with me. It's $9.97. I want you to register right now at tgrlegacymastermind.com. I want you to go and register right now. And here's the thing. I want to talk about everything. We're going to talk about funnels and tax planning and getting published, how to become a speaker and business intelligence, business strategies, social media, running events, leadership training, types of business you could start, SEO, whatever. I don't care. We're going to talk about everything. Those 5 hours are going to be so intense. And here's the thing. I'm only looking for 25 people. That's it. Right now, for the first 25 people that click that thing, go to tgrlegacy.com or legacymastermind.com. We're going to go tee it up big time. All right. We're going to go tee it up. And I'm looking forward to seeing 1 or 25 of you. All right.
Hey, John. Tony here. I just wanted to say great job today. This is all digital, so it could cut you off in about 1 minute. So I wanted to give you a nice little wrap and congratulate you on being on the main stage of the Best You EXPO, and really excited to have you here.
I'm delighted, man. Thank you, Tony. It's been great. Love being here with everyone. And that's all I got to share. I look forward to seeing you guys pretty soon. And you got a great program for the rest of the week.
Thank you. So stick around virtually. High five everybody in all the rooms. But John Shin, we're going to play your movie, hopefully. And we're really excited to have you part of the Best You EXPO virtually 2020.
Awesome. Rock and roll.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.